APR plus $1,000 bonus cash or lease for $149 a month. Hurry in today.
Tonight, several developing stories as we come on the air. The major shakeup. President Trump fires his Secretary of State in a tweet. Rex Tillerson is out tonight. What we've now learned, and then the phone call from Air Force One hours after the tweet. Also tonight, the major storm, the third nor'easter in less than 2 weeks, hitting at this hour. The blizzard, treacherous driving, tractor trailers overturning. The deadly bus crashed down a steep embankment. Children on their way back to school after a trip to Disney World. We do have breaking developments tonight in the case of that possible serial bomber. 3 bombs, 2 dead, and what authorities have just revealed a short time ago. And the family horror on board a United flight from Houston to New York. The family says the flight attendant insisted that they place their dog in the overhead. The pet did not survive the flight, and what the airline is now saying tonight.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Tuesday night. That massive storm hitting at this hour. But first tonight, the storm swirling inside President Trump's cabinet. President Trump firing Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, and doing so in a tweet. The president firing Tillerson, then calling him several hours later from Air Force One. The president naming CIA Director Mike Pompeo as the new Secretary of State. And look at the wall tonight. At the top there, Tillerson fired. He was not the only one fired at the State Department today. The Undersecretary of State, Steve Goldstein, who tweeted that Tillerson did not know the firing was coming, he was then fired too, in addition to all of the vacancies that already exist at the top of the State Department. And so we begin tonight with ABC's chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
President Trump is in California today, reviewing prototypes of the border wall he hopes to build. A trip overshadowed by what he did early this morning, firing his Secretary of State on Twitter, no less. Mike Pompeo, director of the CIA, will become our new Secretary of State. The president declared, "Thank you to Rex Tillerson for his service." As he left the White House, the president explained he just didn't see eye to eye with his Secretary of State.
Rex and I have been talking about this for a long time. We got along actually quite well, but we disagreed on things.
As for his new choice for top diplomat,
tremendous energy, tremendous intellect. We're always on the same wavelength.
Tillerson's day began flying back from Africa, landing in Washington at 4 a.m. At 8:44, seeing the tweet that the president had fired him, and minutes after that, his spokesman putting out a statement saying Tillerson had wanted to stay on the job, adding, "The secretary did not speak to the president and is unaware of the reason for the firing, but he is grateful for the opportunity to serve." Shortly after that, Tillerson's spokesman was fired too, and a dejected Tillerson said the call did eventually come from the president hours after he was fired.
I received a call today from the President of the United States at a little after noontime from Air Force One.
The timing of the firing was a shock, but it's no secret the president had clashed with his Secretary of State for months on the Iran nuclear deal, on the Paris Climate Agreement, and most dramatically, on North Korea. Tillerson was blindsided by the president's hasty decision to agree to meet with Kim Jong-un, telling reporters hours earlier,
"We're a long ways from negotiations."
And in October, Trump publicly mocked Tillerson for suggesting talks with North Korea, saying Tillerson was, quote, wasting his time trying to negotiate with Little Rocket Man. And last summer, Tillerson reportedly called the president a moron and then refused to deny making the comment.
"I'm not going to deal with petty stuff like that."
That prompted Trump to call Tillerson weak.
Sometimes I'd like him to be a little bit tougher, but other than that, we have a very good relationship.
And the president even suggested, quote, "I guess we'll have to compare IQ tests, and I can tell you who is going to win." Adding to all the drama, the president today hinted there may be more firings to come.
I'm really at a point where we're getting very close to having the cabinet and other things that I want.
So let's get to John Karl with us live tonight from the White House. And John, as you know, Tillerson today did not mention President Trump by name, other than mentioning that phone call from Air Force One. But he did urge State Department officials to move forward with, quote, honesty and integrity were the words he chose today. But John, while we have you, there's another shakeup to get to tonight after the departures of Hope Hicks, Rob Porter, two very close aides. A third aide you've learned escorted out of the White House?
This was one of the very few originals left, David. John McEntee, the president's personal assistant or body man, seen at his side virtually every day on all of those trips. Late yesterday, he was escorted off the White House grounds, not even allowed to pack up his desk or even to go and retrieve his jacket. We're told it was problems with his security clearance. But, David, just minutes after news of his firing broke, we learned that he's been hired to work at the Trump re-election campaign.
All right, John Carl with us live tonight. John, thank you. With those vacancies in the West Wing and the vacancies at the State Department tonight, we do have one more question on this, so let's get right to ABC's Chief Global Affairs Correspondent, Martha Raddatz. Martha, you covered the State Department for years, and let's take another look at that list of vacancies we showed the viewers at the top here, the 2 new firings, and then all the vacancies that already exist. Have you ever seen the State Department this hollowed out?
David, it is really an unprecedented situation at state right now, a ghost town. Just as that proposed historic meeting with Kim Jong-un is being finalized, there is no confirmed Assistant Secretary for East Asia, no ambassador to South Korea, and no special representative for North Korea policy. He left just before the meeting was announced. So all of the key people at state responsible for the region are in acting or interim positions. But maybe Mike Pompeo can change all of that, David.
Oh, speaking of Mike Pompeo, the choice to succeed him to run the CIA will be Gina Haspel, the first woman to run the spy agency. But, Martha, she doesn't come without controversy either.
She doesn't. Gina Haspel was in charge of one of the CIA black sites where they did so-called enhanced interrogation, including waterboarding of al-Qaeda operative Abu Zubaydah, who was waterboarded more than 80 times. She is no doubt going to be asked about that during confirmation hearings. David?
All right, Martha Raddatz live in our Washington bureau tonight. Martha, thank you. Also at this hour, the massive storm hitting right now. The third nor'easter to slam into the East Coast in less than 2 weeks. Blizzard conditions across New England at this hour. Several big rig accidents blocking highways, including I-290 here near Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. First Philly in New York, the system now slamming New England tonight, where up to 2 feet of snow is possible. Winds gusting more than 80 miles per hour. Blizzard conditions, and ABC's Adrian Bankert is in Marshfield tonight.
Tonight, wicked weather. The third nor'easter in less than 2 weeks arrives in Boston as a full-blown blizzard.
If you're out there traveling on the streets of Boston today, be very careful.
Look at the pile of the snow that these snow plows are pushing already, and it takes up a lane and a half.
In Marshfield, the storm surge nearly swallows the few drivers daring to risk venturing out in these coastal towns. Live power lines dance in the wind. Gusts above 80 miles an hour in some places. Power lines arc in Orleans, starting fires in Sandwich.
We are on the south side of Sandwich. This giant pine tree has actually fallen over, and it was caught by the power lines.
Outages hit nearly 250,000 customers across the Commonwealth. Troopers urge residents to stay off the roads.
Not much traffic out here. If you are home, stay there. If you have to go out, take it slow.
Tractor trailers jackknife on multiple interstates. On the Mass Pike, the speed limit reduced to just 20 miles per hour.
That is a truck that has flipped onto its side right on the pike. Obviously a scary situation out here and a testament to just how slippery the roads are.
Air travel not any easier. Boston's airport a ghost town. About 75% of flights canceled. Crews use fire to keep commuter rail switches from freezing and plow trains to keep the tracks clear.
So let's get to Adrian. She's live tonight in a very windy and wet Marshfield, Massachusetts. Adrian, we're really thinking about the people of New England tonight because I know officials have told you it could be once again several days before the power comes back.
Yes, David, they're calling this a multi-day restoration. Residents are weary. So are crews. They've been working nonstop through these 3 nor'easters. Now, residents in coastal towns like Marshfield, they're watching the tide here, and it's still snowing. We could see another ½ a foot of snow overnight. David?
Wow, those waves and churning water behind you. Get back inside, Adrian. Our thanks to you. Let's get right to senior meteorologist Rob Marciano. He's live along New York's West Side Highway tonight. A bit of a different scene as people head home here, Rob.
Certainly is. New York relatively unscathed, but eastern New England, as you saw, still getting pounded with that blizzard. Right now, the radar is still thick with snow. The winds are howling, in some cases gusting over 80 miles an hour. We'll get another 6 to 12 inches, as Adrian said, tonight. And then behind that, cold, blustery snow showers all day long for much of the Northeast. And that cold air goes all the way down into the deep south once again. freeze watches and warnings with temps getting down near freezing, teens for wind chills, and this active pattern continues. Dare I say, the potential for another nor'easter the beginning of next week. David?
All right, we'll be tracking that as well, unfortunately, Rob, thanks. We're going to turn next tonight to the deadly bus crash in Alabama, a high school band traveling back home from Disney World to Houston. Police say the driver of the charter bus was killed when the bus veered off Interstate 10 there, plunging down a 50-foot ravine. There are multiple injuries tonight, and here's ABC's Steve Osunsami.
I'm going to need some help. We got a full charter bus, multiple injuries.
Police and fire who raced to the scene are still trying to figure out tonight why the driver of this tour bus lost control. Add screaming children to this image of tossed pillows and stuffed animals, and this is what they saw.
We need some blankets and some gloves. Anything warm. We're getting hypothermia setting in.
The bus was on the way home to Texas, carrying the Channelview High School band, seen here. They had just finished a trip to Disney World when police say their driver ran over a median and fell 50 feet down a ravine on I-10 near the Alabama-Florida state line. The driver, seen here, was killed. 37 people, most of them students, had to be rushed to the closest hospitals. Some had to be physically cut out of the bus.
I don't know exactly how many, maybe 2 or 3 that had to be cut out.
Our station in Houston was there when one of the students called home.
Some students were stuck under seats. Some were on top of other students.
Federal investigators have a team looking into this tonight. The tour bus operator says that their driver who died here was a longtime employee and that they're cooperating with authorities. David?
Steve Osunsami again tonight. We also have new developments here in the urgent search for a possible serial bomber in Austin, Texas. As we reported last night, 3 package bombs exploding, 2 people killed, those packages left on doorsteps. And what we learned late today, ABC's Alex Perez in Austin.
Investigators in Austin tonight desperately chasing a suspected serial bomber.
We are going to follow up on every lead.
Anxiety gripping the city after 3 packages exploded, killing 2.
Everybody's on guard. Everybody's real suspicious if there's any packages.
Emergency officials have flooded with more than 265 calls of suspicious packages.
Package near the ground or on the ground near the mailboxes. So just please advise you not to mess with it.
This is the home where the first bombing occurred back on March 2nd. You can see the impact, the power ripping right through this wall, blowing out the door.
Authorities tell ABC News the explosive devices were constructed with nuts, bolts, and nails, generating shrapnel, and were triggered to explode when picked up.
The fact that they have been able to not only build these bombs, but then travel with them and deploy them to the target locations without them exploding shows that they do have a certain level of sophistication.
And tonight, the youngest victim identified as 17-year-old Draylon Mason, a dedicated student with a passion for music.
The reward for any information leading to an arrest in this case, now up to $65,000. David?
Alex Perez tonight. Alex, thank you. Overseas at this hour to England, and 24 hours after British Prime Minister Theresa May demanded that Russia answer for the nerve agent attack on a former Russian spy and his daughter. A new mystery unfolding tonight. Another person dead. Authorities say Russian exile Nikolai Glushkov was found dead in his home in London. Police listing his death as unexplained. Counterterrorism officers have taken charge of the investigation as a precaution tonight. Back home now, and to tonight's pivotal special election in Pennsylvania, the high-stakes battle for a congressional seat in a swing state and in a district won by President Trump by double digits. The president campaigning for the Republican, former Vice President Joe Biden for the Democrat, and what this could all mean for November. ABC's chief national correspondent Tom Llamas is there tonight.
Tonight, a House race in this southwest Pennsylvania district could set the tone for the midterms.
It's an open seat, come on.
Polls show the race between Republican Rick Saccone and Democrat Connor Lamb neck and neck, even though Republicans have held this seat for 15 years.
I hate to put this pressure on you, Rick. They're all watching because I won this district like by 22 points. It's a lot.
Go out and make sure he wins.
On Lamb's side, former Vice President Joe Biden. I asked Lamb today about his sudden rise.
Do you think this is because people really like you, or do you think they're really upset with the president?
Hopefully it's because they like me and they believe what I've told them, which is that I'm going to work really hard for every single one of them, no matter what party they are.
In the last hours of this campaign, Saccone delivering this baseless claim about Democrats.
They have a hatred for our president. I tell you, many of them have a hatred for our country. And I tell you some more. My wife and I saw it again today. They have a hatred